Hi everybody, my name is Christian Gapp, and today I like to talk about this topic from Open Data Hub to visual insights using the data browser. So let's start. First, some explanation, just so we start all from the same level. What is the Open Data Hub? I think all of you know what the Open Data Hub is, but just for a short recap. It's a single access point to open data from the tourism area, from the region of South Tyrol and beyond. And it contains lots of data from different areas. For example, from the tourism area, where we have like accommodation data or points of interest. Then we have, for example, data from the traffic area, like parking lots or e-charging stations. So a lot of interesting stuff inside there to discover. The data browser makes the data available through different endpoints. And one of them is a REST API or several REST APIs that it provides. And that's really nice because usually REST APIs are easy to handle and to integrate in your products or in your ideas. So nice to have and nice to use. Then what is the data browser? The data browser is a web application that you can use on the desktop and on mobile. On mobile it does not work perfectly, but it works. And the data browser is mainly used to visualize data from the Open Data Hub in different forms. And that's also the main topic I'm talking today. How can we visualize the data from the Open Data Hub in a way that is useful for you and for your clients, customers, and for the people overall. It's also possible to edit data in the Open Data Hub using the data browser, but you need to be registered and you need to have the permission to do so. So not everybody can change the data like it wants. Now, why does visualization matter? So there are several reasons why we would like to visualize data. One is to gain insights. So having a visual representation of your data can help to understand data and the data itself and its relationships. Sometimes when you just look at raw data, it's a bit difficult to understand, this belongs here and this is interconnected with the other stuff. But if you choose the right visualization, that can help you to understand those relationships. It can also help you to improve the data quality. For example, on a map, when you see there are clusters of points in a certain region of the world, and you have some unique points distributed across the globe, then that can tell you that maybe there is something interesting going on, or that the data has some problems and some errors. Visualization also aids in discovery. So it helps you to find interesting patterns, as discussed before, or also unexpected data points. And that's something where visualization can help you. It also can help you to uncover other patterns. Like, for example, you can see that on a main traffic route, there are lots of e-charging stations. Obvious, but you can visualize that and see maybe that in some areas there are no e-charging stations, something interesting. And it can also help you to find correlations and outliers, like data points that don't belong there where they are. Visualization also can help you to enhance the engagement. So if you have something nice to show to the people, usually they take a look at it. If you just have raw data, then most people will say, well, I don't understand, so what should I do with that? So visualization is there really important. It helps you also in the communication with your shareholders, because understanding in a fast and simple way is sometimes fundamental to communication. Engagement can also be improved if you are able to share your findings and insights. So in a good or in a best case, you have something short like a URL that you can copy and paste and send to somebody other and say, take a look at this. And that person sees the same stuff that you see. That's something really nice to have. So, of course, visualization is a matter of the perspective. It's not that every visualization is is good for everybody. So it depends on your target audience and the use case. As most of the times, especially with computer stuff, there isn't one single true way to do it. So most of the times it depends. So I think everybody of you knows what I mean. And yeah, so the visualization is driven by who is looking at it and why that target audience is looking at it. Then different needs also require different types of visualization. So here are some examples. Text can be good for narratives, tables for precision, charts for trends, maps for geolocalization, or geography in this case, and images and videos can bring some emotional impact. Now let's come to some examples. Some Open Data Hub insights that we gained through the data browser, and I choose the way to present you some images. So you have some cases where you see how the visualization in the data browser helps to understand what's going on in the Open Data Hub. So the first example is quite simple. Here you get an overview of the data sets provided by the Open Data Hub. So already you have some introduction what you can get from the Open Data Hub. That's, I think, something nice to have, like an index at the beginning of the book or at the end of the book. So you know, is there something in for me or not? You can also gain that information, of course, if you read the documentation or if you parse the Swagger definitions and so on, but that's not something that you give another person and tell them, look at it, that's cool. So I think this is a better way of to do that. By the way, you see down there links, and those are links and also deep links into the visualization that you see here. So in the examples, you have below the links, and if you open those links, usually you should get at exactly that representation. So you can share it with others like I'm doing now. Now, next example, data quality. So in this example, we see we have a table representation of a certain data set in the Open Data Hub. In this case, it's about the accommodations. So we have a list of all accommodations, and we see different properties in the columns. And what we see here, for example, is that for a certain hotel, there is no image. So, of course, you can extract that again from the data browser's raw data and try to look where is this image missing and so on. But here you have the visual representation, which is quite easy to grasp. So here's another example insight. Some of the data some data sets in the Open Data Hub rely on data that is stored in other data sets. As a data set now I refer, for example, to accommodations. That's a data set that contains all accommodation data from the Open Data Hub. And that data set, for example, has some references to other data sets, like the accommodation type or like location and so on. And it can be difficult to understand if certain properties of a data set really are the true value or are just a pointer or a reference to other data sets. And in this case, the data browser helps us to understand which data is just a pointer and which data is the true data for that data set. In this case, the blue ones are pointers to other data sets, and the orange ones are properties of a data set that are deprecated, so you should not use them anymore. In this example, we see the raw data of a certain record. By record, I refer now to a single entry in a database, for example, single line. So this is just one accommodation, specific one. And this visualization tells us there is lots of data. So you can access even the raw data in the data browser, and you see by the scroll bar at the side, there's still a lot to scroll. And something also interesting, and you can use this to get all the details of a data set or a record. So that's also visualization supported by the data browser. Next, here we see some spatial distribution. Again, the accommodation data set, I choose it because it's something that's easy to imagine what's about. It's just accommodation, hotels, and so on. And here we see, for example, in this visualization, in the map visualization, we see that the accommodations that are stored inside the Open Data Hub seem to be centered around South Tyrol. So we see clearly where the borders are. And we see a little bit of distribution where a lot of accommodations and where not. But this, for example, I think is something that's really useful, because if you look at the raw data and look at the geo coordinates, then you're out of luck. So it would be a little bit more difficult to understand such insights. So this is another insight where we talked before about outliers and maybe some data errors. And this is a nice example about the e-charging stations stored in the Open Data Hub. You see that there are lots of data in Europe, so there are lots of stations, and I encourage you to take a look at that data set. It's nice. And we see that there are some outliers that seem to be centered or located near the equator. And if you take a deeper look into those data sets, you see that those are from some testing stuff. Don't know where they really are from, but yeah. And that's one example where visualization helps to improve data quality or find such errors. Now, what are the future improvements for the data browser? At the moment, or what we are working now on, is that we want to allow the user to configure their visualizations. So we have the data, and at the moment we provide a way to visualize it, but that's the way that we think is useful for you. But of course, not all of you are the same. Some have different use cases, different needs, different other stuff that's interesting for them. So it should be possible for the user of the data browser to define, I want to see that data that way. And that's what we are working at the moment. Another future improvement maybe is to have some charts where appropriate. So there are different tools, like the analytics tool that already provides that functionality. But maybe sometimes for smaller parts of data, it could be interesting to have the latest, 5 measurements, for example, or something like that. And with that, I'm coming to the conclusion. I encourage you to take a look at the project, maybe to contribute if you have time, if you see that there's something interesting for you. And yeah, if you have any questions, then let me know.
Thank you, Christian.